The agriculture sector is highly vulnerable to climate change, facing threats from unpredictable weather and resource scarcity. Now, to discuss its impact on the local industry, we're joined by the National Manager of the Federation of Free Farmers, Raul Montemayor, via Zoom. Magandang umaga po. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, good morning, Paolo, and good morning also to all your listeners.
So Raul, unang-una, for those not familiar with the Federation of Free Farmers, could you tell us a bit more about yung organization po ninyo? Ano po ang role ninyo in making sure that the farmers are well represented and the farmers are taken care of?
Yes, actually, the Federation's number one role is advocacy for farmers' interests. No? It's one of the oldest farmer organizations in the country, established in 1953, and it is also one of the largest now. Aside from advocacy, we also have a cooperative arm that provides economic services to our members. And of course, climate change is one factor that affects a lot of our members. So we try to deal with that in advocating for support programs for government, providing training and advice to our members, and then also helping them on the economic side, the marketing, procurement of inputs through our cooperatives.
So Raul, you mentioned climate change, of course, as one of the reasons why we have you on. For those wondering, when you take a look at yung impact ng climate change sa mga farmers on a very real level po, what impact or what particular impact does it have to the day-to-day life of our farmers with the climate change changing the weather patterns that we're experiencing here in the Philippines?
Oh, yes, it's a very big challenge, and there's very little that the farmers can actually do. It's the forces of nature that are affecting his crop and his livelihood. No? There are some things that can be done. One is to adjust the timing of your planting and harvesting, because in the first half of the year, it's the dry season, and there are less typhoons during that period. But to enable farmers to plant more during the dry season, you need water. Yun naman ang kulang, yung irrigation natin. And then on the second half of the year, that's the wet season. So there is a lot of rain. And many farmers use that to start planting their crops. No? Unfortunately, the second half is also the period where we experience a lot of typhoons. No? And climate change is making this transitions from dry conditions to wet conditions more extreme. No? That's an additional challenge to the farmers.
Sir, could you give us an example of just how important resource management actually is? Kanina pinag-usapan namin yung resource scarcity, but then resource management through all these times through climate change as well as the necessary government support, just how big is that in reducing yung vulnerability ng agriculture sector natin?
Oh, well, again, if it's forces of nature, no, calamities, there is very little you can do. No? I talked about shifting your planting calendar. That's one way, but not a sufficient way. That other one is to change your crop, no? or move on to either crops or areas which are less vulnerable to either floods or drought. No? And again, that's a very big challenge. How can you move people from their existing farms or crops to other options? No? In most cases, the farmers just have to grin and bear it. No? And when the typhoon strikes them and they incur damage, that is where government assistance probably is most needed to allow them to recover from that calamity.
Sir, is there any role that the national government can play? You mentioned on helping them recover, but then in terms of actually helping them throughout this climate change period that we're having right now, we're seeing increase in number of typhoons, prolonged periods of dry seasons. Can we expect more from the national government with regards to addressing yung mga issues na to?
Yeah, well, during the time of El Nino, when we had very little rain, the option was to build water impounding systems so that during the rainy season, we can gather all of the available rainwater and then use them during the drought period. No? Again, that needs a lot of investment and preparation. You cannot do that when it's already El Nino time, no? Or El Nino time.
Opo.
Nino. Now, when it comes to La Nina, where you have too much rain, I suppose one intervention is the flood system. No? Kasi nangyayari when we have a lot of rain, even here in Manila, the rain doesn't go out there.
Yeah.
Wala siyang lalabasan. No? And when you submerge crops over several days, no, they will rot away. They will not survive the flooding. No? Yeah, so that's where government can come in. Otherwise, how will you stop the wind? How will you stop the torrential rain?
Yeah.
Parang mahirap.
Opo. That's true. We have no control over the weather. But you mentioned, you were talking about, of course, the efforts that could be done, adjustments being done by the farmers. What would you say is yung vision nyo po for agriculture here in the Philippines, especially throughout all the challenges being posed by climate change?
Can you repeat that? It's a little bit choppy.
Yes, sir. Ano po yung vision nyo for the future of agriculture in the Philippines, especially since we're going through a lot of climate change adverse effects?
Yeah, well, for now, it's very little adjustment, no, because although we see what is happening with climate change, for ordinary farmers, there is a very little option on what else to do, no, or how to adjust. No, they are stuck, for example, in palay production. It's vulnerable to either drought or typhoons. No, but if you tell them, then plant another crop or go to another area, those options are not practical options for ordinary farmers. No? They cannot easily do that, unlike maybe business that can easily change course. No? So what will be the vision? Sa ngayon, needs a long-term planning, I think.
Yeah.
Some activity that's being done in terms of reconfiguring yung farm areas so that they are less vulnerable to flooding or other climatic disturbances. No?
Yeah.
And then I think, again, very important, if we cannot stop it, then we help the farmers cope with it through crop insurance, through relief activities, provision of input so that they can plant again.
Sir Raul, maraming salamat. Thank you very much for your time and insights. We really appreciate you being here, and hopefully we can have you again soon.
Salamat din. Thank you.
That's Raul Montemayor, the National Manager of the Federation of Free Farmers.